So coming up early next year, in a little bit less than a month of me uploading this video, is going to be UFC 297 Strickland versus Du Plessis, taking place in Canada. And this is going to be a pretty good pay-per-view. Now, is it as stacked as some of the other pay-per-views we're going to be getting, like 299 and 300? No, but it's a good one. And it's one that I am looking forward to, as it is going to be, of course, in front of a crowd. The main event is going to be pretty entertaining. You've got Sean Strickland, you've got Du Plessis. The press conference should add to a lot of entertainment. And I just thought I better go out there and just give out some early predictions that I do have for this card. I've got many weeks to fill in content for, and of course, using that time, I have been researching cards like this upcoming so I can get ready for the start of next year. So let's get into the first fight of the night. But before we do get into that, I do of course have the 3-day free trial to We Want Picks. You can get a 3-day free trial premium membership over there, and also I do have some links in the description where you can get some bonuses to BetUS and also Bet Online. The first fight of the night, according to Tapology, this isn't the final roster or the final lineup. It is Jasmine Jasudavicius taking on Priscila Cachoeira. I do like Jasmine Jasudavicius to win this one here. We know that she can wrestle, she can strike. She's not the best striker in the world, but the way that she does win fights is by using her wrestling background, which she does have at a very high level in Canada. She managed to out-wrestle Miranda Maverick to a decision in that fight there, but then did lose to Tracy Cortez in a fight where Tracy Cortez looked pretty good on the feet and showed off some decent boxing. Cachoeira is very hittable on the feet. We all kind of know this by now. She is okay at grappling, but she mostly is a very high volume striker. I don't think Priscila Cachoeira's grappling or takedown defense is actually going to be enough to slow down Jasmine, as I think Jasmine is going to be able to get takedowns pretty regularly in this matchup if she does choose to go and get them, which I do think she will. Jasmine's also pretty big for the weight class too, so I like Jasmine Jasudavicius to win by decision. And this one here, to look at the quick odds, Jasmine Jasudavicius is minus 350 right now. I can kind of see it. Would I play her money line at those odds? No, but I understand why she is a big favorite. Charles Jourdain taking on Sean Woodson. This is an odd one, and Sean Woodson is always a fighter that's going to be quite interesting at 145 because he is 6'2". But if you look at the way that this guy is built, man, this guy is built really thin. Like, his legs are really thin, man. Very tall, thin guy, 6'2" at 145 pounds. A boxer. He has a boxing background. I believe he actually boxed at heavyweight at one point, which is crazy. But yeah, Sean Woodson, he's a boxer. He can grapple. He got Luis Saldana, and that was an incredibly weird fight in some bad situations with his grappling. So you know that he can grapple if he needs to. He beat Dennis Bazooka, but Bazooka took that fight on incredibly short notice. Looked okay, and that one there just kind of outstruck him for the most part, really. Charles Jourdain, in my opinion, is just a bit better than Sean Woodson. It's kind of the way that I would put it. Jourdain's a fun fighter, you know, he's a good kickboxer, he's a fun striker. I think he's going to work and kick the legs of Sean Woodson. He can grapple if he needs to. He obviously chose not to grapple when he took on Kron Gracie, but then he did grapple against Ricardo Ramos and got a very impressive guillotine choke pretty early on into that matchup. And that was a matchup which a lot of people thought that maybe Ramos would be able to go out there and get the win. Jourdain went out there, got it done. Jourdain's a guy that likes to move forward, throw strikes, throw kicks. Woodson's boxing's good, and Woodson can win this fight because he's got a 78-inch reach, but he's going to have to keep Charles Jourdain at the end of that reach for all 3 rounds. I think Charles Jourdain's going to be moving forward, closing the distance. I think we might potentially even see a finish in this one here. We have seen Saldana catch Sean Woodson before multiple times. I think Jourdain might be able to as well, so I'm going to go Jourdain by finish in this matchup here. It could be a knockout, it could be a club in sub, it could be a decision as well, but I do like Jourdain in this one here, and I'm just trying to find the odds real quick for you guys. Charles Jourdain is minus 180. Sean Woodson is the slight underdog. Now we can move on to Yohan Lainesse taking on Sam Patterson. This is a good one. I feel like it's a good move for Sam Patterson, moving up to 170 pounds, as he was 6'3" at 155, which is big. And he wasn't really a small 6'3" either. He does have a little bit of size to him. He probably did struggle to make 155, and he got knocked out in what For me, I haven't done my KO of 2023 yet, but I think Yanel Ishmu's KO over Sam Patterson is a top 10 KO of 2023. He was on the receiving end of that. It was absolutely brutal the way that he got knocked out by Ishmu's. Just kind of left his chin up in the air for way too long, and Ishmu's eventually found it. Before that, he beat a guy, Vinicius Sensi, who was just a complete unknown, to be honest, on the Contender Series, and did fight at Brave, taking on some very good opponents, guys that were trying to take him down, guys that he wasn't meant to beat. Now he moves up to 170. He takes on Yohan Lainesse. Yohan Lainesse, to be honest, is a guy that isn't really that impressive to me at this weight class, but he is massive, and he has massive power. Now, Yohan Lainesse is a guy that just has one-punch power. He took the chin off Justin Burlinson, knocked him out badly, and Burlinson, honestly, hasn't been the same again. He's been KO'd again on the regional scene, which is a bit unfortunate, as Burlinson had such a massive amateur record going into that fight, and going into his pro career. Lost to Gabe Green. Weird fight, I guess, again. I think he hurt Gabe Green at one point, and then he beat Darian Weeks in a fight, which you could argue Weeks won. I mean, Yohan Lainesse is a guy that just has the crazy power. I think it's going to be enough to beat Sam Patterson, though. Patterson is a guy, though, that I will say, especially at 155, he used his size really well. He is a good striker at keeping you at the very end of his strikes. He uses his length very well, but taking on an absolute powerhouse and just the way that he exposed pretty bad striking defense, that classic tall man's defense where you just kind of lean back with the chin up in the air and you're so tall your opponents can't catch you. I don't think that's going to work at 170. There are a lot of guys at 170 that are about his height now. Yohan Lainesse is 6'1" with an insane amount of power. His reach is only a little bit shorter. I think he does catch the chin of Sam Patterson. I'm picking Lainesse at minus 120 and Sam Patterson's plus 100. I mean, I wouldn't put money on this fight, but I mean, most people are picking Patterson to my surprise. Okay, I'm picking Lainesse by KO. I think he does catch Patterson in this matchup. Now you've got Malcolm Gordon taking on Jimmy Flick. Don't put your money on this fight. Just don't do it. Both of these guys, to be brutally honest, are the bottom of the UFC's flyweight division. Now, don't get me wrong, probably one of the more difficult divisions to be very good at because the guys are so small and it just makes them so much faster and so much more technical. So these guys are good fighters, but they're just struggling in what I would consider to be a pretty decent division on the UFC. Jimmy Flick retired after he beat Cody Jourdain and then come back about a year ago, got KO'd by Charles Johnson, then got KO'd by Alessandro Costa. Flick is a grappler, and that's kind of it. He doesn't really have the best wrestling, and he doesn't really have the best striking, but man, can he grapple. I mean, beating Cody Jourdain, that win has aged incredibly well, and especially the way that he managed to do it with a flying triangle choke. What a highlight reel that is. That is something you can't take away from him, but his striking just isn't that good, man. And the thing about Malcolm Gordon is, I don't think Malcolm Gordon's that good either. I mean, he's weird. Like, he doesn't really have the best cardio. He can kind of do everything. His striking should be enough to disrupt Jimmy Flick. I mean, at one point, he was giving Muhammad Makayev some problems on occasion on the feet. I think it should be enough to disrupt Jimmy Flick on the feet. I'm going to pick him to win by decision, though. I mean, he can wrestle and grapple like he did against Figueiredo. Against Bondar, that was kind of weird as he was wrestling him up against the cage and then Bondar snapped his arm. Horrific injury. I'm going to pick Malcolm Gordon. Malcolm Gordon is the favorite, minus 120. Jimmy Flick, plus 100. Don't put your money on this fight. Just don't. I'm going to pick Gordon by decision. Maybe he gets a KO. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised with literally any result. The next one on Tapology's list here is Chris Curtis taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. Now, this is an opportunity to fade Chris Curtis. I feel like there might be a lot of people out there that see this fight and think, you know what, Chris Curtis isn't looking that good. Maybe Chris Curtis is done. And maybe you would be right. And I am a fan of Marc-Andre Barriault, and I'm very happy that he is getting this big matchup for him. But at the same time, I think Chris Curtis is gonna have enough to beat him. Marc-Andre Barriault he's a striker, a pretty high volume striker as well, that does clinch up against the cage quite well. His wins aren't really over the best guys in the world. Like, he did beat Eric Anders recently. He absolutely smoked Julian Marquez on the feet. Marquez took a lot of damage in that fight. He lost to Anthony Hernandez, but Hernandez is a good fighter and a nightmare matchup. Beat Jourdain right, and he lost to Chidi and Jaquani by like first minute KO pretty much. But yeah, Marc-Andre Barriault's a good fighter. He's a good high volume fighter, and I could see him beat Chris Curtis. I absolutely could, by landing more volume and by being that pressure forward fighter that he is, and just being really annoying, because Chris Curtis does not like it when you don't fight his fight. I do think Chris Curtis can make Marc-Andre Barriault fight his fight though, and that is boxing in the close. I think he's going to rip the body a lot like he normally does. If he has to, he can defend the takedowns from Marc-Andre Barriault. This is going to be a striking matchup. I think Chris Curtis is just going to get the edge by landing the better shots, but at the same time, there is some red flags that we've seen. Joaquin Buckley was having a lot of success against Curtis before he did knock him out. Gastelum beat him, a little bit controversial, but he beat him. And then Nasruddin Imavov was beating him until the clash of heads. So there's a lot going on with Curtis as well. He's also deactivated his Twitter or his X after defending Ngari, but whatever. I mean, I'm picking Chris Curtis, low confidence pick. He's minus 160. Marc-Andre Barriault is plus 140. Most people are going with Curtis. I think there's going to be a lot of people out there, though, that might try and fade him. Now we can move on to Serhiy Sidey taking on Ramon Taveras. A rematch. This is honestly a little bit of a weird one. A little bit of a head scratcher. But it is what it is. I'm going to pick Serhiy Sidey again. I picked Serhiy Sidey the first time when they fought on the Contender Series because he is the much better wrestler and grappler in this fight. And I believe that in this fight, he's going to win using his wrestling and his grappling because that's what he's much better at doing. If you do look at his Contender Series fight and you watch him fight Ramon Taveras for the first time, he does knock him out, but it's stopped early. But I think even if the ref didn't step in and gave it a few seconds, I think Serhiy Sidey would have won by KO in the first round anyway. The way that Sidey does have a massive advantage over Ramon Taveras is in the wrestling and the grappling. Taveras is a good boxer. He trains at Bulldog Boxing, according to Tapology. But he is a good boxer. You can see that in his style. You can see that in his fights. He does have good eyes in the pocket. You can absolutely see that against Romios, because Octavius Romios went out there trying to take his head off and tried to fight a firefight with Taveras. And Taveras won the firefight just by having better eyes in the pocket and just by having better boxing at the end of the day, up and close. Serhiy Sidey's striking style is Muay Thai, but he's a good wrestler grappler. And if he puts the wrestling and the grappling on Ramon Taveras, he should dominate this fight pretty easily. But if he goes into this fight thinking, I knocked this guy out last time, I'll do it again, and he draws Taveras into a firefight, he will get knocked out. I'm picking Serhiy Sidey by submission. I think Serhiy Sidey has a massive grappling advantage over Taveras in this matchup. I would be incredibly disappointed if he doesn't use it. So I'm going to go with Sidey. He's minus 185. Taveras is plus 160. And I'm picking Serhiy Sidey to win by submission in this matchup here, using that massive grappling advantage that he does have. And now we've got Gillian Robertson taking on Polyana Viana. Speaking of grappling advantages, it's probably quite fair to say that Gillian Robertson will have the grappling advantage in this fight. And another thing that I will say is I think she should be able to get this fight down to the ground, as Polyana Viana doesn't have the best takedown defense. And Gillian Robertson is a really good grappler. Now, Robertson's striking is a bit poor. Her wrestling isn't that great. But her grappling's really, really good. I mean, we went out there and saw her out-grapple Piera Rodriguez, submit Piera Rodriguez, who was a good prospect. Submitted Maria Agapova, who is pretty much a pure striker. But then she lost to Tabitha Ricci, kind of got exposed. Just kind of by a more well-rounded fighter at the end of the day. Now, Polyana Viana, she is a good grappler. She can grapple. But I'd say her biggest advantage in this fight, though, is her striking. And she is dangerous as well. So Gillian Robertson is going to have to keep your eye out for her. She knocked out Junyu Frey. And in that matchup, she looked really, really good. And almost had me convinced to pick her to beat Jasmine Lucindo. I like Robertson, though. I think Robertson, I mean, if Polyana Viana doesn't go out there and land a massive combination like she did against Junyu Frey, Robertson should be able to take her down. And Robertson should be able to submit her. I'm picking Robertson by submission. Most of Tapology is as well. The odds, I believe, will favor Gillian Robertson as well. They do. Robertson is minus 180. Polyana Viana is plus 155. Now we move up to Brad Katona taking on Garrett Armfield. And one thing I'm going to say is this is a temporary pick, because my pick could change and very likely will change, maybe, on this fight by the time that it rolls around, because I will do an updated video the week before that this card is actually going to be on. It's Brad Katona taking on Garrett Armfield. For now, I'm picking Brad Katona, but I'm prepared to pick Garrett Armfield. Garrett Armfield really, really impressed me in his last fight. He just absolutely dominated Toshiyama Kazama, and he made Toshiyama Kazama not look UFC level at all. I can see Kazama winning some matchups in the UFC. Brad Katona was absolutely not one of those. Garrett Armfield was not one of those. Garrett Armfield's striking looked crisp. His boxing looked incredible in that matchup against Armfield, and maybe that could give Brad Katona problems. But I am going to pick Brad Katona here. I think the advantage for Katona is in the wrestling. Now, I do understand that Garrett Armfield does have a really good wrestling background, but Katona has really solid wrestling and really good cardio, and when he gets that wrestling going, he just doesn't stop. And he showed off his striking and his cardio in a war against Cody Gibson. In that matchup, though, I was rooting for Cody Gibson. I did want Cody Gibson to win, as I do like him. And it turns out Cody Gibson did get a UFC contract, so that was good. But now he's coming into this fight against Garrett Armfield. He just had that war only 3 months ago. Would have taken a lot of damage in that fight only 3 months ago as well, at the time that I record the video, of course. But I think that his offensively wrestling style, which isn't that fun to watch, to be honest, should be able to overwhelm Garrett Armfield. I think he should be able to use that wrestling over and over and over again to take Garrett Armfield down. On the feet, Katona is a very good striker, of course. Maybe Garrett Armfield's boxing is maybe a little bit better than I think it is. I think it's already great. But if Garrett Armfield's boxing is really, really good, I could see him boxing up Brad Katona. But the pick, just to clarify, is Brad Katona by decision in this matchup. Brad Katona's minus 170. Garrett Armfield is plus 145. 92% of people are picking Katona. Maybe more bets will come in on him. If you're on the Garrett Armfield side, maybe the odds will widen a bit. Now we've got Dominick Reyes taking on Carlos Ulberg. When Carlos Ulberg called out Dominick Reyes, I didn't think the UFC were going to do it. And I don't think the UFC should have, man. I feel like Dominick Reyes should have fought this is going to sound really disrespectful, but they should have given Dominick Reyes Ihor Potieria, not Carlos Ulberg, because I am relatively confident in Carlos Ulberg in this matchup. Now, don't get me wrong. Dominick Reyes is an incredible fighter. He's incredibly athletic. He's a very solid fighter. He's given John Jones problems. He gave Jan Blachowicz some problems, but he mostly gave Yuri problems as well. And then he just went out there and got KO'd by Ryan Spann by a jab. And let's be honest, guys. That's Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann's not good. He's not good. I think Carlos Ulberg goes out there, uses his kickboxing experience that he does have, and knocks out Dominick Reyes. Oh, I don't know, but he didn't look. He looked pretty human against Da Un Jung. I will say that. I mean, he did beat up Da Un Jung a lot in that fight, but he looked human. Beat Potieria. I mean, he has been looked after. You know, since he come into the UFC and lost to Kennedy Nzechukwu, he has been looked after, has Ulberg. I'm from New Zealand. I can call him out for this. Like, my goodness, a lot of these matchups. I mean, the Ihor Potieria fight, that's unreal, man. How did he get that fight? Ihor Potieria, how did that happen? Anyway, the point is, the pick's Carlos Ulberg by KO. I think he uses a striking. He's minus 225. Dominick Reyes is plus 190. I could see Reyes doing something, but I like Ulberg in this fight, man. I think Reyes' chin is scary. I don't think he's going to take the punch, take the power of Ulberg. I think Ulberg knocks him out, and I think he knocks him out in the first round. So, yeah, give me Carlos Ulberg in this one here. Now we can move up to the card to Neil Magny taking on Mike Malott. I'm going to pick Mike Malott in this one here. Mike Malott looked amazing in his last fight. He really, really did. He took on Adam Fugit, and everything Adam Fugit was throwing on the feet, Mike Malott had already anticipated it. It was just a really, really clean performance that really showed off the skills that Mike Malott does have. And we haven't even really seen the grappling that Mike Malott really possesses in the UFC either. Like, I understand he submitted Yohan Lainesse, and he submitted Szymon Petryski in like 40 seconds on the Contender Series. He's been the grappling coach at Team Alpha Male for a long time. Because you look through his career, you look through his topology here, you'll see that he took a lot of time off. You know, where was it? 2017, and then he comes back in 2020 in MMA. I think he was just training, training the guys at Team Alpha Male the whole time. Comes out there, looks really good, and I think now he's just jumped up in the rankings big time. And this is a massive, massive competition jump for Mike Malott, because he beat Adam Fugit, a guy who is a solid fighter, but he's not a guy that's near the top 15. Yohan Lainesse is on this card. I don't think he's the best fighter in the world. Mickey Gall, I don't even think he's in the UFC anymore. So this is a massive, massive step up in competition from Malott taking on Magny. But I think we've seen Malott take on a guy and just look really good. Yeah, what does that even make sense? That doesn't make sense at all. We've seen Malott in a fight where he's able to anticipate what his opponent's going to do. If Mike Malott can go out there and anticipate what Neil Magny's going to do on the feet, I think he's going to have a lot of success. If he can take Neil Magny down, I think he's going to have a lot of success. Yes, Neil Magny can wrestle. Yes, Neil Magny can grapple. But I think we're going to see Mike Malott go out there and out-grapple Neil Magny and just find a lot of success in the grappling. Now, his striking is getting better, but I think the grappling's where he gets it done. So I'm going to go with Mike Malott to win by submission in the third round. After a competitive 2 rounds where Malott might be slightly ahead, but I think Malott eventually finds the takedown. I think he eventually finds his position and finds a submission over Neil Magny. The odds for this fight have Mike Malott minus 260, Neil Magny plus 220. My confidence doesn't reflect those odds. I'm not that confident, I'll be honest. Now we've got Arnold Allen taking on Movsar Evloev, and we've got my first underdog pick of the card. It only took, I believe, maybe 13 fights to get there, 11 fights out of 13 to get there. My underdog pick is Arnold Allen. I think Arnold Allen can get it done. But yes, there are of course a little bit of red flags with the way that Arnold Allen does fight, because Arnold Allen is a pretty low volume kind of guy, and he has been outstruck before in matchups which he has won. Now, I would say the biggest example of this is his fight against Sadiq Yusuff, where Sadiq Yusuff is landing more volume on Arnold Allen, but Arnold Allen is really winning the fight due to the knockdown. So I think in this matchup here, obviously Arnold Allen's going to have to keep the fight on the feet because Movsar Evloev is going to be trying to take him down all the time. But I also think that Arnold Allen could probably give Movsar Evloev no respect, because Movsar Evloev isn't finishing anybody in the UFC, and now that I've said that, he's probably going to finish Arnold Allen. But if you look at his career, I believe he's 7-0 in the UFC, and he's won every single fight by decision since he has come into the UFC, and most of the time that has been him dominating in the wrestling. I think if Arnold Allen keeps this fight on the feet, he's going to give Evloev problems. Diego Lopez has a wild striking style, and he gave Evloev problems. I think Arnold Allen can give Evloev problems by moving forward, by throwing volume, and just landing big shots. As long as the fight's on the feet, I think he's going to be good. Another thing that Movsar Evloev does struggle with a lot is cardio. Movsar Evloev does slow down later on into the fights, and I think we've seen Arnold Allen actually go 5 rounds before. I think Allen's going to be good. I think in round 3, when Evloev's going to be a bit tired, Allen's going to be ready to go. I think Arnold Allen, obviously, the game plan for Allen to win, he needs to defend the takedowns. I think he can defend most of the takedowns, but not all of them. I'm being a little bit more realistic. But while the fight is on the feet, I think he's going to land enough damage on Movsar Evloev. I think even in the grappling, maybe he'll be able to throw up some elbows or just kind of annoy Evloev a little bit, maybe score some points, maybe cut him or something like that with an elbow on bottom. But at the end of the day, Evloev, if he's going to win, he's going to have to get on top and he's going to have to control for a decent amount of this fight, because when the fight is on the feet, I think Arnold Allen's going to be the better striker. I think he's going to be landing some big shots, and I think he's going to catch Evloev at moments. I think we're going to see Arnold Allen get a knockdown, at least one knockdown in this fight, and maybe a knockout. I feel like if he's going to knock out Evloev, it's going to be when Evloev is gassed out in round number 3. I'm picking Allen to win by decision. I think he does knock down Evloev in round 3. I think he has a moment early on into the fight as well, into round number 1. I'm picking Arnold Allen. He's plus 145. Movsar Evloev is minus 170. Arnold Allen is the underdog at the moment. He is my underdog pick. Now we've got the women's bantamweight title fight. I think that the press conference could be really awkward if Sean Strickland does speak up about what he's been saying about him headlining the card. But I'll put that aside and I'll give my prediction for this fight. Low confidence, and this is a pick that absolutely could change. I'm going to pick Mayra Bueno Silva, but I can see Raquel Pennington winning this fight. I really can. I think Raquel Pennington is actually a pretty solid fighter. She just went out there and beat Ketlen Vieira. I thought she beat Ketlen Vieira as well, even though I'm pretty sure I might have picked Pennington, actually. I can't, maybe I'm wrong. But anyway, she beat Ladd. That win has aged pretty badly. She beat Kherson. That's a good win still, especially at 145. I think that would have been it. Ganzad's a good win, and Renault's okay. I mean, Renault was like 49 years old or something like that at the time. The way that Pennington wins fights is not very entertaining. The way that Pennington wins fights is she uses her size to outmuscle you up against the cage and clinch you up against the cage and control like that. It's not fun. It gets the job done though. I like Mayra Bueno Silva a bit more because she is dangerous. She's a lot more dangerous in this matchup. We've seen her danger in her recent fight. She beat Holly Holm by standing ninja choke. Kind of looked a little bit kind of like a guillotine, but not really, obviously, as it was the standing ninja choke. That did get overturned due to her having ADHD medication in her system, and I don't believe she disclosed it to USADA. But the fact that she's been able to return 4 months later obviously means that USADA saw that as a genuine reason and now are allowing her to fight, even though I guess in 2024 USADA won't be doing it. I think it's going to be someone else that the UFC is employing. Submitted Lena Landsberg by knee bar. Submitted Stephanie Eger by armbar. It's not even the fact that she did it, it's the fact that who she did it to. I know, I guess you could say Irina Alexeyeva. I'm talking myself out of picking Mayra Bueno Silva. Oh, no. I liked Mayra Bueno Silva, though. I thought she was looking, she wasn't looking that good against Holly Holm either. Oh, God, this prediction video has just become a mess. The pick was Mayra Bueno Silva, and it was by submission, because I thought eventually she should be able to get the fight down to the ground or hurt Raquel Pennington on the feet. My goodness, guys, I'm not so convinced. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Oh, no. Anyway, the pick was Mayra Bueno Silva. It's minus 155. Raquel Pennington plus 135. I'll sit here, I'll watch some tape, I'll do my study, and then I'll talk on the camera, right? And when you're talking yourself through it, all of a sudden things might become less clear when you're just sitting in silence. So that's scary. But anyway, let me know what you think of this co-main event in the comments below. Let me know who your pick is. I'm actually quite interested to know. And let me know what your pick is for this main event. There's going to be a lot of the main event, of the MMA community that is going to be split on this fight. So you let me know what you think in this comments below as well. It's Sean Strickland taking on Dricus Du Plessis. I'm seeing a lot of people on Strickland. I'm seeing a lot of people on Du Plessis. Let me know who you're on in the comments below. I'm on Sean Strickland. I think he beats Dricus, but here's the thing. Every time I doubt Dricus Du Plessis, he somehow does it, man. He just somehow wins, and I don't know how he does it. And Dricus Du Plessis that can breathe through his nose is a mythical fighter. The first time Dricus Du Plessis was able to breathe with his nose after that nose surgery was against Robert Whittaker, and he looked pretty good. And I will say he looked a lot better technically than he did against Derek Brunson. Because if you watch this Derek Brunson fight and you watch the Robert Whittaker fight, they are not the same. They don't even look like the same person. Because I'm going to be honest, that fight against Brunson was horrific. Both guys looked really bad. Both guys looked like they gassed out in the first round. It was terrible. It was a terrible performance from DDP, I thought. And then he goes out there against Robert Whittaker and absolutely dominates Robert Whittaker. So he's coming off that performance. That is his best performance to date, and he looked really good. But Sean Strickland is also coming off his best performance to date. He's coming off a performance when he went out there against Israel Adesanya, backed Israel Adesanya up for 25 minutes, knocked him down and almost out in the first round, didn't gas out, and just continued the onslaught, continued the domination for 5 rounds. And I guess you could say, although the Australian fans were cheering for Strickland and booing Adesanya, because let's be real, not a lot of people like Adesanya, he still was fighting away from home. I mean, the UFC wanted to put that event on in Australia to have Adesanya be the crowd favorite, even though the crowd wasn't on Adesanya's side. That's hilarious. I think if they did it in New Zealand, I think the boos would have been even louder for Adesanya, but hey, it is what it is. Yeah, Sean Strickland went out there, dominated Adesanya. Let's talk about his style, though. Strickland does have the iCarly stance. And he does kind of do a lot of parrying as the way that he defends his shots. He has one hand high and one hand relatively low, and just kind of, yes, it is parrying, but he's just slapping punches. That's what he's kind of doing, and he does have good head movement. He does have pretty solid defense. He's a boxer at the moment. I mean, he can wrestle. We've seen him wrestle. We've seen him grapple in the past. I believe he's even got his black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. We just don't see him use it. And I think the only way that we're going to see Strickland use it in this matchup is to defend takedowns from Du Plessis. Because I would not be too surprised at all if Dricus Du Plessis goes out there, strikes with Strickland, uses his kickboxing, but then closes the distance and then tries to get takedowns on Strickland. I think Strickland can defend all of Du Plessis' takedowns. I think his takedown defense will be good enough. And I think that maybe you see Strickland get a takedown or two of his own. I think you might see Dricus Du Plessis get a takedown or two of his own. We know Du Plessis can grapple. He's got a lot of submission wins in his career. On the feet, though, I like Strickland's forward pressure. If Strickland is moving forward for 25 minutes and backing Dricus Du Plessis up and making Du Plessis move backwards, he's going to gas out and he's going to slow down, and Strickland's going to be able to take over because we know Strickland has good cardio. He's always sparring, so he's got that good fighting cardio. I mean, everyone does, but you know what I mean. He's always sparring, so he's always getting those reps in. He's obviously getting used to that sort of situation that he's going to be in on Saturday night against Dricus Du Plessis. I think we see Strickland push Dricus Du Plessis back and just kind of outwork him for at least 3 rounds. I think this fight does go the distance if Strickland wins. I don't really see Strickland finishing him. Obviously, there is questions about like what's going on with the trash talk that DDP. That was a scummy move. I'll say that. Like, DDP, that was horrendous. It wasn't as bad as Colby, but it was still a scummy move from DDP. But the way that I see Dricus winning, I think he's going to have to touch and hurt Sean Strickland. I think he's going to have to land something big on Sean Strickland on the feet to get his respect and get Strickland moving backwards. Because to get Strickland moving backwards, you're going to have to land some big shots to get his respect, because he's always going to be trying to come forward with his chin kind of a little bit up in the air, and he's going to be trying to parry or slap away those punches. I like to call him slapping. I know it's a parry, but that's what he's doing. He's slapping the punches. Come on. Anyway, yeah, let me know what you think of this whole card in the comments. My pick is Strickland. Majority of people going with Du Plessis. I don't hate it. I mean, at the end of the day, he just dominated Whittaker. So you've got to respect that. I mean, I'm picking Strickland as a slight favourite. He's minus 125. Dricus Du Plessis plus 105. Let's see what happens, man. I'm looking forward to this fight. I'm looking forward to the press conference. Hey, this is going to be a good card. Now, is this a stacked card? Not really. But it's a good card. You know what I mean? Like, this main card is pretty solid. Is it a card that I'm really, really, really looking forward to? No. Because UFC 299 and 298 are examples of cards that I'm really looking forward to. This is a good one, though. This is one to look forward to. I think the Canadian fans will be happy to see it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I might have said that like 20 times this video, but hey, and it's what it is. I'll see you guys in the next one.